Here's another expression, cakewalk. I asked historian Frederick Douglass Opie to explain the origins.
The cakewalk started as a black parody of white ballroom dancing and snobbery. This was done in the slave quarters on the lawn in front of the big house during the antebellum period in the South. So you had enslaved black folks dressed up with the finery that they had, which mostly were rags, and they would dance with actually a bale of water on their head, forcing them to keep their upper body kind of stiff like the elite Western formal dances that they were observing through the windows of the big house. So in contrast to popular African dances, which was very fluid and a lot of waving of your body, they were trying to dance like North American dances. And then what you had is you had these masters picking up on what was going. So the masters class started observing what was going on, and then they started taking their slaves and putting them in competition to see who can do the best cakewalk. So this is kind of the early origins of it. So it starts off with slaves making fun of masters going, wow, this is pretty cool. Let's get our guys betting against one another, and they have their slaves go. And what happened is the masters would win money if their slave won the contest, and then they would give the slave, the winner, cake. So that's how the term cakewalk actually came about.
That's interesting, because also that sounds very difficult to do, especially for somebody who can't dance at all, but that's another story. Now the terminology, oh, that's a cakewalk. It's like it's easy.
You're right. That's one of these common terms we use. But what's interesting is, it starts off as this thing from slavery, and by the turn of the century, you have white entertainers picking up on it, co-opting the dance, and bringing it to the minstrel shows. So during this period, people talk about this term Jim Crow. Jim Crow was this character during the minstrel shows, and often the Jim Crow character was doing the cakewalk. So it goes from the plantation to Broadway, and then by the 1920s, sometimes 1908, you start seeing people in Paris doing this stuff. And it becomes like one of these popular party activities for elite whites, not only elite whites, but also black folks. And it becomes this kind of party activity very similar to what we do at an electric slide at a party or at a wedding. So it takes off.
And so I guess the ones who actually won, they got to take the cake.
Exactly. And when it turned to the white community, they started trying to call it the pie walk. So sometimes you would see in sources cakewalk, but also the pie walk. But, yeah, that was what the winner would get, was a cake.